Well, we're going to continue now, and before we have the next selection, I am going to speak words of tribute to my father, to Nathan Shor, to Moshe Nuta Ben Eliezer. And you know, it's really because of my father that this program went on the air to begin with. My dad passed away on December the 4th, 2004. My dad gave me many things and many experiences. His teachings and the experience of working with him for many years in the movie theaters. But more importantly, he gave me the love of Jewish music and culture, which was so important to him. You know, when I was a kid, he had this great big stereo console, and he was always playing records on it for everyone in the neighborhood. And you know, back on Sundays, we used to go for rides. People used to do that. You know, gas was cheap in the 1960s, and we would go for these long rides on Sunday. Now, maybe some people went to the museum, to the art gallery, or whatever. Well, not us. We went to Baltimore, and we drove in the direction of Baltimore because A.D. Glitchikov's Yiddish Radio Stunde came on WBMD at 2 o'clock, and my father loved to hear that program, so we used to be in the range of the signal so that we could hear it. And you know, later when videos came out, he would tape everything Jewish. It was funny, he would listen to the most acid rock. As long as it was Jewish, he would enjoy it. And then in 1980, I got the radio show. And I never would have had the length and breadth of knowledge of Jewish music to be able to do the show without him and without his teaching. People were always amazed that A, I was only in my 20s, and that B, I was born in the United States. Almost until the day he died, he would call me, put on channel this or that, listen to this, tape that. It was all so very important to him. But by the time the last decade, the aughts they call it now, by the time that it came, it was harder and harder to keep the show going. And then finally, right around the time that my dad died, I had to throw in the towel and take the show off the air. And to be quite honest, I thought that the show had died with him. And then about 5 years later, totally out of the blue, the phone rings, and it was Chris Roth calling for Bill Paris, and they wanted to put the show back on the air. And because Bill Paris is the gentleman and friend and mensch that he is, he arranged it so that all the pressures and the difficulties that caused all the problems in the first place are completely removed. And as excited as I was to put the show back on the air, something totally unexpected and even more wonderful happened when Ben said to me, "Dad, I'd like to do the show with you." And there it was. The legacy would continue. Because I had wondered, how was I going to transfer this love for this that my father gave to me? How was I going to transfer it to my own children? Because the era that they are growing up in is so much different from mine, and the people who could have helped me to do it are all gone. Yes, we had a lot of loss in a short period of time, but I was wrong, and I'm glad that I was wrong, because now Ben sits with me every Sunday, and we do the show together, and I know that the Shor Jewish music legacy goes on, Lador Vador, from generation to generation. And I know that somewhere in the other world, my father is smiling, and I believe that he hears the show and that it does his neshama a great deal of nachas. You know, my dad lived his life by a certain code of honor and respect. He never took off the sergeant's stripes that he wore so proudly for this country. It was part of who he was, and he taught me that you always had to do what was right, and that no amount of inconvenience or expediency would ever change that. It really made me who I am in such an important way, and he had great influence on the show. We used to talk about the different records I was going to play. He would suggest things. We would talk to each other in Yiddish, and I miss him so very much. But now I am comforted because Washington Jewish Radio is on the air, and with the advent of the internet, it is heard now around the world, and people get to enjoy this continuing tribute to my dad. The show has changed somewhat over the years, like we said earlier. Ben has brought a whole new dimension to the show, has made it younger and fresher as we continue to pay tribute to the great artists of yesteryear in the decades past. I am fortunate that I am able to do something that meant so much to him, and now it continues not only through his son, and now it continues through his grandson for a whole new generation to enjoy. May his memory always be for a blessing. You know, my dad, with his sense of humor, used to always say that for the first part of his married life, he was known as Meyer Ehrlich's son-in-law, and for the second part, he was known as Larry Shor's father. Well, I got him beat because I got the greatest title of all. I am Nate Shor's son. Born in Albany, New York, December the 9th, 1927, and passed away in Silver Spring, Maryland, December the 4th, 2004. Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory always be for a blessing. And now here's Paul Zim with another great song, a reworking of the old song My Yiddish Mama. This called My Yiddish Papa, dedicated to my Yiddish Papa and all the Yiddish Papas who were in people's thoughts and prayers and hearts on Father's Day. Here's the great Paul Zim.